I know Alan appreciated it.
Parshat Vayishlach is the next stage in the saga of our patriarch Yaakov and his wives Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah. At this point, Yaakov has not only survived, but he has triumphed over the challenges of Lavan, all the wiliness and the tribulations that spending any amount of time with Lavan. You can remember toward the very beginning of the story, Yaakov shows up in Lavan's house as a refugee from his own home, right? Because his brother wants him dead. And not only does his brother want him dead, his brother has succeeded in a real way in impacting Yaakov, because he sends his son Eliphaz to assassinate Yaakov. Eliphaz catches up with Yaakov and has a conundrum because he cares deeply about his uncle, and yet he has his father's command, his father's mission to kill him. So what does he do? And he turns to Yaakov with his conundrum. He says, I don't know what to do. On the one hand, I need to kill you. On the other hand, I don't want to kill you. So Yaakov says, why don't you do both? If you will rob me, in English, the expression is rob me blind, right? In Hebrew, the expression would be rob me dead. Because it says that one who is left without any types of resources, any wherewithal, any livelihood is as if they are dead. Ani chashuv kames. It says somebody who is in extreme poverty is as if they're dead. So you will leave me physically alive, but you will be able to return to your father and say, you have left me for dead. And thereby accomplish your mission. So Yaakov arrives, give me one moment.
Recording in progress.
So Yaakov is coming in this very disadvantaged state to Lavan. Doesn't have any money. He's a refugee, and he comes to Lavan. And Lavan remembers the last time somebody from Avram's household showed up, and that was Eliezer. And Eliezer took his sister Rivka, right, as a wife for the in the Abramowitz family. And they left the Betuel Loviches, right? Betuel and family, very wealthy for the exchange, right? Because Eliezer came with 10 camels laden with gold, silver, riches, right? And so it was quite a deal. Now here comes Yaakov, ostensibly for a similar thing. So Lavan comes running out to greet him, it says, and he's hugging him and he's kissing him. And the Talmud fills in the blanks. This is not yet Lavan overcome with emotion. This is Lavan doing a full body search. It says he's looking for the camels. He doesn't see the camels. He comes running out looking for the camels. Where's all the booty, right? Where's all the riches? Okay, maybe he's got it on his person. So he hugs him, right? He starts patting him down. Well, nothing here. Maybe he's hiding jewels in his mouth. So he kisses him and he does a cavity search. So Lavan, from the first minute, Yaakov dealing with Lavan, it wasn't like he was eased into this. This is Lavan from the literally from hello, right? Is a absolute challenge, and it's a battle of wits. And Yaakov, after 20 years of locking horns with Lavan, comes away the victor. Obviously, a wonderful family, wonderful children, tremendous success. And, finally, he's done his battles. He can now finally take it easy, right? No, out of the frying pan into the fire. Because the whole reason he ran in the first place was to get away from Esav. And now he's heading towards that showdown. So whatever his face off with Lavan was, that was ostensibly more preferred than dealing with Esau. So it's not like he's heading into any better situation now. He knows he's potentially heading into a far worse situation. And this is how the parsha opens up. Yaakov, knowing that he is, again, jumping out of the frying pan, but potentially straight into the fire. So what does he do? He sends malachim, right? Vayishlach Yaakov malachim. Yaakov sends malachim. Now, what does the word malachim mean?
Well, it can be either messengers or angels.
Correct. And the reason it could be both is because the word literally means messengers, but we use it for the most part to talk about the messengers of God. And the messengers of God are
Angels.
angels.
Right.
So what we don't know here is when it says that Yaakov is sending malachim, does it mean that he is sending run-of-the-mill messengers? Or he's sending messengers as God says messengers, as in real angels?
We don't know.
So Rashi jumps in and he actually clarifies it. In other words, we don't know from the text, which is why Rashi jumps in. Vayishlach Yaakov malachim, malachim mamash, actual angels, says Rashi. Now, why? Why? First of all, if this is a job that potentially a human being could do, right? If he just has a message to give over, then that doesn't need angels. God sends angels because it is befitting for God to send angels. A human being should be sending human messengers unless it's a task that can only be fulfilled by an angel. Otherwise, it's insulting to send an angel to do a man's task. Right? So when we say malachim mamash, when Rashi tells us no, we really mean angels, then the next question that has to follow is, why?
How can a human summon up an angel?
So
Oh, that's such a good question.
Comes Paula and says, wait, before you get to the
Comes
why,
Paula.
let's address the how. Right?
Right.
How does a human being summon up an angel? And the answer is actually one answers the other.
Okay.
One answers the other. The basic answer to this question about why is because how. In other words, this is Yaakov's show of force to Esau. Esau is coming with 400 men, right? Yaakov doesn't know that yet, but he knows the potential that Esau is coming. You know, there was a moment where I remember I was in New York and sitting there in a restaurant, and an argument broke out. Kind of a Brooklyn, a schmaltzy Brooklyn argument breaks out, and it gets heated. And at one point or another, one of the guys gets up and he says, "Listen, I only have 2 words to say to you, and they're not happy birthday." Right? So Yaakov knows that Esau's on his way, and it might not be to wish him happy birthday. Right? So Yaakov is thinking this could potentially be a confrontation. I need to prepare for every circumstance. And we all know that battles don't begin at the first clash of swords, right? Way before the physical battle begins, there is the psychological battle, right? The intimidations or whatever it is, back and forth. So what is Yaakov doing when he is sending when he is sending literal angels? What is he telling Esau?
He's trying to freak them out.
I am on the spiritual level where I have angels at my beck and call. I am holding at that place where if I need to, I got spiritual firepower. Right? Don't forget the not only the battle lines, but the tools of or the weapons of war have already been delineated. When Yitzchak called Yaakov, who was incognito at that time, right? He comes to get the blessings and he's dressed up like Esav. And he says, "Come here, my son, let me feel you," right? Because the way he's talking doesn't sound like Esav. And he feels him and he feels just like Esav. So Yitzchak makes a declaration, very famous declaration. What does he say? He
The
says,
hands are the hands.
right? Hakol kol Yaakov v'hayadayim yidei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. This is not just him making a keen observation and a pithy kind of remark. Yitzchak is portending that in the eternal battle waged between Yaakov and Esav, what does each one bring to bear? Yaakov, kol Yaakov, v'hayadayim yidei Esav. Yaakov is going to come with his voice, and Esav is going to come with his hands. Esav will come with the brute force, right?
He's the doer, right?
And Yaakov is going to come with his voice, his ability to reach out to God, to call out to God.
Rabbi, I think that a little bit later on, Rashi explains that since what Yaakov feared didn't happen, even though there were 400. I think Rashi says that Esav came to understand that that maybe the way he did it wasn't great, but that this was the unfolding of the way things were supposed to be. So I want to suggest that maybe the reason Yaakov needed to summon actual angels was because it would only be actual angels that could make this sea change in Esav's mind. Not because humans he could have gotten an army of 400, whatever he wanted, but it's only a spiritual entity.
But that doesn't answer how a man summoned an angel.
That's for sure.
Good. Hold the
That's
thought.
for sure.
Hold all this, okay?
Okay.
What you're saying is 100%, and as I often say, put a pin in it. We're coming back.
Okay.
You guys are just too smart in general.
Awesome.
I was like, you're a couple steps ahead. But for as I say, for the benefit of the other viewers, of those
Right, for the benefit of
after,
us stupid ones.
yes, no, for not right. Well, Jerry, you're always guilty of being a couple steps ahead because that's, as I said, you're not on the stupid side. You're on, but we're gonna ask you. I'm gonna beg your leave to kind of walk it back a bit and build up to where you're already at. Let me. So here we have what is basically, and we're going to see this more. This is the epic battle between the physical and the spiritual, is basically what we're saying here. Esav is the epitome of the physical. Esav, don't forget, in the opening few lines on which we are learning about who these people are, Yaakov and Esav. Esav returns from the field exhausted, and Yaakov is cooking lentil soup, right? Why is Esav so exhausted?
Because he's out doing stuff. He's hunting.
What was he doing? He wasn't just hunting a thing. He was hunting the thing. You know, what's the name of the book? The most dangerous prey, right?
The most dangerous game?
Most dangerous game, right? Right, about hunting a human being, right?
Yeah.
So Esav was not just hunting game. He was hunting the most dangerous game. He was hunting a human being, and not just a human being, but a very specific human being, the most dangerous human being on the planet. Why? Because Esav was a grandson of Avram. Who was Avram's arch enemy? Nimrod. right? Abraham just passed away. That's why Yaakov is cooking the lentil soup and mourning over his grandfather, Abraham. How does Esav react to the death of his grandfather? Does he mourn and have an introspective moment? No, he says, I can't abide that Nimrod, my grandfather's arch enemy, should live a day longer than my grandfather. And he single-handedly storms the palace and kills the emperor of the world. Nimrod dies that day at the hands of Esav. What this teaches us is Esav is no slouch. Esav
But
is,
also it's a weird thing, but it almost was a noble, it's weird, but it's almost like noble.
no. This is why Yitzchak saw potential in it.
Right.
Esav had feelings he never rebelled against his family. He didn't make any effort to comply, but he didn't rebel. In fact, we know that when he heard that his father was sending Yaakov to Haran to marry from a specific family because he did not like the daughters of Canaan, Esav immediately divorced his previous wives and married the daughter of Ishmael. Right? So Esav, in his own self-centered way, was a partisan on behalf of his family. His partisanship is like, I'm going to kill my father. Instead of having a positive introspective moment, his attitude was, let me shed some blood on behalf of Avram, right? Had he actually consulted Avram or his father and asked him, is this something that would be meaningful? They would tell him, no, but that's not who Esav is. But either way, what we see is that if you had to think who was the most powerful, physically, militarily powerful man on the planet, it was Nimrod by far. And here comes Esav, and Esav single-handedly takes down Nimrod. This man is the epitome of physicality and physical force. That's Yadayim Yedei Esav. The hands are the hands of Esav. The hands with a capital T, capital H. The hands belong to Esav. This is Esav's thing. And Yaakov is the voice, not the TV show, but the real voice. And we acknowledge that this battle has been raging throughout history. The Jewish people have always been that spiritual light to the world, which has caused, as in a sense, the hallmark of the world's response to this spiritual light that the Jewish people try to bring into the world is what? For the world to respond with hands, right? We see this again and again and again. We carry our torch, and the world sends its armies against us. In Spain, Persia, in Greece, in Babylon, Rome, whatever. This is a battle we are very, very, very familiar with. We know this well. So to get to your point, Paula, not only is this something that could only be done by angels, but this is what Yaakov brings to the table. Because here's what's a remarkable thing. Yiddishkeit teaches us that a human being is not a mediocre creation in the hierarchy of existence. It's not like you have God, then you have the Seraphim, then you have the Ophanim, and then the Chayot HaKodesh, etc., down. And then you have the human being, and hopefully at the top of that hierarchy are those that are believers and committed to the chosen people, etc., then animals. No. The way it goes is God, and potentially right under God is God's children, which is what a human being can be. And under that are angels. How does a human being command an angel? The answer is, if a human being achieves their fullest potential, yes, then the angels are happy. to serve, because the angel understands that the catalysts of the purpose of all of creation does not lie in their hands. It lies in the hands of the humans. It lies in the hands of the children of God. And in fact, as the favorite, this is eventually the whole story with the Moshe getting the Torah on Sinai. Don't forget the chronology. Wait a minute, if that story happened after the story of Jacob, then how did they acquiesce to Jacob and then fight Moshe for the Torah? Time works differently in heaven. Right. And so, but they acquiesced eventually. They agreed. Torah lo bashamayim. Torah does not belong in heaven. Down here in this world, in the hands of the Jewish people, is what drives, is the center of creation and is the purpose, the driving force in creation. And therefore the angels, being committed to the divine vision, are more than happy to serve at the behest of a human being who has their eyes on the prize, that is doing what they're supposed to. It's not even a matter of kind of hierarchy of nobility. How dare you commit? We are here to serve the purpose. And you are the captain of our team. You tzaddik, you righteous human being. Tell us how we can help in this effort. That is the power of the human being. And that power actually comes from the fact that we could potentially be an Esav, which then allows us to be a Yaakov. An angel cannot do evil, can never be an Esav. But for that reason, an angel therefore can never do righteousness, as we've been talking about in the JLI course. An animal, as we've talked about, when a leopard kills a mother baboon and leaves the poor baby baboons to fend for themselves and starve and die, is that a heinous evil act on behalf of the leopard? No. The leopard's just doing leopard things. It's acting on instinct. It's doing its thing. You can't accuse a leopard of being evil. But because you can't accuse, because it doesn't have the choice and it's not making rational moral decisions. Because it cannot be evil, therefore it cannot be righteous. So in a interesting way, almost ironic, it is our potential to do evil that gives us our ability to be righteous. Angels, it's not by accident that one of the levels of angels are called Chayot HaKodesh, which literally means what? The holy animals. They too act entirely on the divine instinct that's embedded in them. They don't have a choice. There's no dynamism to the angels. That is why if you need an angel to do a kind act, which angel do you call?
Human.
Michael. And if you need an angel to do an act of strength or discipline, you call Malach Gavriel. From the word Gibor, right? Etc., etc. And if you need an angel to do some healing, you call Malach Raphael. So why did God send 3 angels down to Avram, right? Because there's 3 different tasks. Really, one of them to share the Besurat Tovah, that the Michael to share that you're having a child, Yitzchak will be born. The second one to heal Avraham, right, Raphael, and the third one to wage war with Sodom, Gavriel, right? Question is, none of you can multitask? I mean, really, walk and chew gum at the same time. You know, Gavriel, on your way out to destroy Sodom, you can't.
But that's the nature of the angels.
Because an angel is one-dimensional.
Right.
An angel, you can't call an angel righteous. You can call an angel holy. You can call an angel holy. But you can't call an angel righteous. You never see an angel referred to as tzaddik. Because you can't call an angel a rasha either. So they are very lofty. They are very lofty.
Except Satan, you can call.
But even that, you can't really call him because he's just doing the task that God built him to do, built him from the ground up to do. He's not rebelling against God. He is the servant of God. His task is to be the opposition. But the bottom line is, we actually don't say Satan Harasha. We just say Satan. We don't call him the Yetzer Harasha. We call him Yetzer Hara. The inclination to evil, not, and that's what it actually means. So we have to understand that we human beings are actually at the center of the manifest destiny. Yaakov fulfilling his potential brings him to the level where not only is he above the angels, that's less important. We don't really care about hierarchy. What rung of the ladder you're standing on. But more importantly, that all of creation, especially the angels, are ready, willing, and able to aid Yaakov in his effort. And if the effort calls for an angel, then they stand ready as well. And so how, we've just answered the how. The why is also answered in that, because Yaakov wanted to make a very powerful statement to Esav. Esav, you're coming with what you have, right? You're coming with your wheelhouse, your innate talent. You're coming with 400 men, right? And the Talmud tells us, don't understand it that he's coming with a grand total of 401, him and 400. No, 400 commanders, each one with a company of soldiers under them. Esav is coming with ish. It doesn't say anashim. It says arba meot ish, right? 400 the man under him, not 400 men. Each one of these was a leader, 400 leaders. Each one of them bringing their retinue. Esav is coming with an army, a massive army. He is bringing his full talent to bear, as it were. And Yaakov says, I see your army and I'll raise you angels. Right? And he hints out to this in the words, what's the beginning of his message? He tells the angels to say, Ko amar avdecha Yaakov, so says your servant Yaakov, im lavan garti. I have, translate those words, im lavan garti.
Lagu
If
is
Lavan-
to live, but
Right. Basically, the basic translation is I have lived with Lavan, right? But actually, to get more specific, the word garti comes from the word ger.
Stranger.
I have sojourned with Lavan.
Oh, right, okay.
What's he saying? I have not gone native. I spent 20 years in the corrupt cesspool of Haran and Lavan's household. Did I ever become a denizen of that cesspool?
No.
No. In fact, what have I done while under while living by Lavan?
the opposite.
Take the letters of Garti, and you have Taryag.
Right.
Taryag is what? 613.
613.
Numerical value. That is what it says here in Rashi. Im Lavan Garti v'Taryag mitzvot shamarti. Even while dwelling in this most corrupt, low, crass, unholy place, I kept all of the Torah and all of the mitzvot. So you might have maximized your physical potential, but have no doubt that I'm maximizing my spiritual potential, as you can see here with these angels.
So he knew going into it that he had the power to summon the angels.
Yes. He knew, and he knew that that's what he needed to face off with Esav. This is, and we say this in the most read chapter in Psalms. What is the most read chapter in Psalms?
I would say 32, but
23?
23.
The most read chapter, at least in Jewish circles, is chapter 20.
20.
20.
All
Kapitel
right, I
Chaf,
got it right here.
page 67. We say it every day in the davening. We say it for everybody who was ill, right? Lamanatseach Mizmor David, right?
I'm gonna say, yeah.
The Mizmor Yanchav Yom Sorry, Segech Hashem, Yaakov, etc., etc. Now, what does it say towards the very end of that chapter of Tehillim?
It says,
Ele Varecha,
Adonai Huh?
right before that, before Hashem Hoshia. Ele Varechev ve'ele Vasusim va'anachnu b'shem Hashem Naskir.
correct.
These come with chariots, these come with horses, and we come with the name of God that we call out to.
They translated here, we
and-
boast in the name, we boast in the name of the Lord. That's what it says in my translation.
Boast is, I think is a naskir is that we call out. Zecher, zikaron. V'anachnu. So they're coming with their hands, powerful weapons, horses and chariots. And we come with one weapon. We come with the name of God on our lips. Right? And so this is always, in a sense, the battle. This is always the struggle. This struggle doesn't only play out in the world, the struggle plays out within you. You have the Yaakov within you, you have the Esav within you. The part of you that is entirely focused on the material and the physical and the pursuit and capture of it. You are a ish sadeh, a person of the field, right? A hunter and trapper, right? Each one of us looking to get our hands on more and more of the physical world and to absorb it, right? There's a part of us that has that single-minded pursuit. And there's the other part of us that is constantly looking upward, right? The Yoshev Oel, the Yaakov within us. And they are, as was told to Rivka, Ulaom milom ye'ematz. They will constantly struggle against each other. Right? This is what Rivka has this existential crisis, right? It says that, and Rivka becomes pregnant, mother of both Yaakov and Esav. She becomes pregnant, and she says, Lama ze anochi? Why, therefore, am I? She's having an existential crisis. To which you want to say, Rivka, you may want to wait for the postpartum to have the depression. The prepartum depression over here, right? It's not like she says, "Oh, it's hard to get up in the morning. Or I'm having morning sickness." She's saying, "Why, therefore, am I?" This existential crisis. Why? What is happening? She is giving birth. She's pregnant with a child. They've been praying for so long. Why is she having this existential crisis? So the Talmud fills in the blanks. When she passes by, because it would be when she would pass by a place of Torah study, the yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, she would feel the baby kicking. Like every mother knows, I'm going to give birth to a scholar, to a tzaddik, right? This child will be a prince among men. Every mother knows, right? My kid loves listening to Beethoven, right? Whenever we have classical music, the baby starts kicking. I have, right? So she feels the baby kicking when she passes by the place of Torah. Then she passes by a place of idol worship. And what happens? To
Same
her
thing.
horror, baby kicks again.
Right.
And she says, what is this? How am I supposed to raise this kind of child? What is this child? She's having an existential crisis. To which she goes to seek out the advice and from Shem and Aver, and they tell her that what?
You have both.
You got both. It's not one child who's suffering from a split personality. You have two different. And each one has their vested interest and therefore will struggle against each other. And when one rises, the other falls. But eventually, the older will serve the younger. Okay? Hold that thought. If you understand this story, that the Torah never shares just an anecdote, but rather shares a lesson, then this is perhaps one of the most important lessons, one of the most important insights for each and every one of us. Because we go through this existential crisis all the time. How many of you were moved on the day of Yom Kippur? Felt the prayers, really decided this year is going to be a spiritual year. You're going to do only good and not going to do bad, right? We all. How long did that last? How long did your perfect record last?
Till you
Not
walk
long
out of
enough.
synagogue.
My father is a kind of a cynical little comment. He says, "May your challenges last as long as your New Year's resolutions." So we face this existential crisis.
Right.
So what's going on? Does that mean that the whole Yom Kippur was a mirage? That it's all fake? That I really didn't mean it? I'm kicking to get out and be in this holy setting. I want to be there. And sometimes you don't even have to wait any time. How many of you have this happen and have this make total sense? Think about this, okay? You're sitting there in the synagogue and you want the chazan to inspire you. And you want the rabbi to inspire you. You want to be moved by the prayer. You want it. In fact, if the rabbi or you would feel kind of cheated, right? You want the prayer. And at the exact same time, you catch yourself looking at your watch, wondering when it's over. Or glancing up at the clock. What's wrong with you? You're a
human.
split personality. And the
You're
answer is
human.
yes. The answer is yes, you are. There are two cores. You are a dual core system. There are two cores within you. The nefesh elokit and the nefesh habahamit, the godly soul and the animalistic soul. You have the Yaakov and Esav, and they're constantly at loggerheads. And the animal soul, like Yaakov, Esav, will always justify their pursuit of the physical and the material. They will always justify it. They will never. Esav never says, "You know why? Because I'm evil. I'm a horrible, terrible person." No, right? Always explain that there's a necessity, which makes it therefore makes us more susceptible to listen to that voice, because the voice never says, "Here's the wrong thing to do. Let me tell it." Right? Rather, you're always very good at the PR, right? This is right. You need to do this right now. You need to derail your kind of your spiritual focus because you need to take this in, etc. Very, very wily, very brutish. Sometimes it comes in the package of a Lavan, and sometimes it comes in the package of an Esav. And that Yaakov within you has got to do battle with both. And you need to keep your eye on the prize. And here are the guarantees. Here are the guarantees. But how do I overwhelm this? How in the world outside, how in the external world, how in the macrocosm would it ever be possible for the Jewish people to win when we're going up against the great armies of the world? Well, how does that chapter of Tehillim finish? They come with chariots, they come with horses, and we come with the name of God. What's the next verse? Hema karu v'nafalu. They will buckle and fall. V'anachnu kamnu v'nitodad, and we will stand and get forever stronger. King David says that if this faces off with this, then ultimately this will always win. In fact, that was the promise that was given to Rivka, when these two will fight, and one will fight the other. Virav, and the bigger one will serve the younger one. You see, because that's also true about our own soul. Think about how brilliant, but how much the perfection of the Torah. The older will serve the younger, not just talking about Esau serving Yaakov, but about the two souls. Anybody know which of the souls gets developed first? Your animalistic soul or your godly soul?
Probably the animal.
By far the animal. The animal soul is fully functioning as soon as you're born, because if not, you starve to death. Right?
Yes.
There's instincts, necessary instincts that need to be developed. A baby knows how to cry for food as soon as it comes out of the womb, or cry because of discomfort. Right? There is an awareness of the physical deficiencies that a baby has. Right? So the animal soul, the animalistic soul, the material focused soul is plugged in and online from moment number one. The godly soul only becomes fully online at the bar and bat mitzvah. That's why that's the moment you become responsible. So which one is the older soul and which one's the younger soul? Esav comes before Yaakov. The animalistic soul comes before the godly soul, which is why it seems to be that my first instinct and my first reaction to anything is the voice of Esav, right? When I'm facing a situation. And as we said, which one of them seems to be closer to home? Which one seems to be playing on home turf? Which is the home team, Esav or Yaakov? And I'll tell you, as we say often, which one of them do you refer, which soul or which part of you do you refer to in the first person? Do you say, my body is hungry now?
No.
Raise your hand
When
if
you
you've
say
ever
me,
said,
yeah.
you say, I'm hungry now. That part of you refer to in the first person. How many of you have said or used an expression along the lines of, my soul could use a little spirituality? All the time, right? So that part of you refer to in the third person. The spiritual part of you refer to in the third person. The physical part of you refer to in the first person. That's not wrong-headed of you. Well, not that it's not wrong-headed. That's not uncommon and unnatural. It's not unnatural of you to be doing so. Because again, the animal soul established its presence earlier than the godly soul. But it's not the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is you are your godly soul. And when you can bring that to bear, when you can reveal that truth, then Rav Yavod Sa'ir, then the older will serve the younger. And there's two important points to that. Number one, in order to win this battle, to win the battle against your animal soul, you need to work on your godly soul. What do we mean by work on it? You don't necessarily have to make it more holy. It's plenty holy as it is, but it needs to be more present. It needs to be more present. Yaakov has to become Yisrael. The Yaakov within you, which means the heel, has to become Yisrael, the Prince of God. Right? When does Yaakov's name change happen? Right
During the
before he
fight,
faces off
When he
with,
wrestles with the angel.
during
he
the stress
wrestles with the
struggle.
angel, but who
But
has
it
he yet
means,
to
but it
wrestle?
means struggle, doesn't it? Like he's one who
Kisarita.
struggles.
It could also, yes, as in that terminology, Kisarita nashim vatuchal. But the point being that Yaakov and Yisrael are both the same person, but they're two aspects of the personality. Yaakov speaks to the humbleness that we have to have, that we do have as Jewish people. And Yisrael speaks to the pride that we need to have as the Jewish people. We need both. Humbleness in its moment, pride in its moment. We have to understand that when we are facing off with Esav, we have to understand we are not coming from beneath him. We are fulfilling we are God's princes and princesses. We are at the fruition of God's purpose. I can turn to myself and say, think about it. You have a moment, you can either do a mitzvah. You can either spend a little bit more time with the davening, or you can rush to eat the cholent. Right? The reaction is, this is beneath you. You're the noble of God. You turn to the animalistic side inside you and say, really? Really? You really think that what you're putting forward right now is more important? I do need to eat. I do need a drink. I do need to have shelter, etc., etc. But these are ancillary. These are ancillary. Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir. The elder has to serve the younger. Your role here, animal soul, is not to lead. You are the beast of burden. I need you. But I ride you, not you ride me. Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir. And that has to be in our mind. Again, alongside humbleness, we don't throw out Yaakov when we adopt Israel. But we have to understand that the role we play, not even angels can. What we bring to the world is the very purpose of all of creation. And so in the internal battle between the Esav within us and the Yaakov within us, we turn to the Esav and say, really, you think that you're mighty? You think you should be setting the agenda? Angels are listening to me. This is not self-aggrandizement. This is making the point of the responsibility that we have. Even the angels are counting on us. I have time to get derailed by your narishkeit. I am Sar Kale. God's counting on me. The potential that he invested within me would be wasted if I end up allowing you to lead this ship. And on the macrocosmic, the Jewish people in the world around us, the world knows this. The world knows that the Jewish people are at the center of creation. By the way, you will not find anywhere in Scripture the term chosen nation. Am hanivchar. Who gave the Jewish people the title Am HaNivchar? The world did.
You don't find that anywhere?
Nope. We did not call ourselves the chosen. We do say Ata v'chartanu, you have chosen us from all, but
You
the
have
title,
chosen us. Yeah.
but that title, the chosen nation, was bestowed upon us by the world. The world knows it. That's why they keep on singling out the Jewish people. The world knows this. So we can either continue to hide or we can lead. And again, it's nothing to do with self-aggrandizement. It's not to walk around with our noses in the air. More importantly, is to walk with a real sense of gravitas and purpose. If it's not me, then who will it be? And so whatever the obstacle is, whatever the difficulty is, internal or external, you have it within you to win, to succeed. Because we call out in the name of God. When you have God as your ally, God as your backer, God as your silent or not so silent partner, there is not a force in existence that can win over. And King David said this statement at this point close to 2,500 years ago. We've dealt with a lot in those 2,500 years. I think we'll all agree. Has his statement borne out to be true or false?
We're still here.
We are still here.
And none of the ancient peoples are.
So there's the truth. And if that's the case, then we have a responsibility to that truth. It's upon us to each be the nobles of God, to walk with a sense, humbly and proudly, because it's not about us, but it is about our purpose. And to
But
not
Rabbi,
allow,
I'm sorry.
as I say, not to allow any obstacles to prevent us from achieving our goal. Yes.
What does it mean though when you understand the mission and you understand the responsibility, but life and every person finds that life experiences don't give you the courage.
Don't look to the life experiences to give you the courage. The courage comes from within. The life experiences are trying to batter the walls from without.
Bingo. And they're winning.
And they're not. They're not unless you let them.
Or
And
think
the
of it
truth
that
is,
way.
you don't get to mark your own report card. One of the very powerful moves of the Yetzer Hara is when they get you to fail, then to have you look at yourself as a failure. And that is why Tanya says that despondence is tachbulo tayetzer. When guilt moves into despondence, feeling guilt over an action, moves into despondence. Oh, I'm a failure. I'm losing, etc., etc. That is the Yetzer Hara talking. And says the Alter Rebbe that in general, shame over who you are, get rid of it. Throw that in the garbage. Guilt over what you have done is not either
different.
good at all the time. In fact, it says shelve it. Shame throw out, guilt shelve. Because, for example, if you were playing on the field and you screw up, you do something that is decidedly a bad move, right? You should have passed it to a teammate instead of shooting. You shot, you missed, the other team then scored. You failed, right? That was your fault. It was your ego. It was whatever it is. What is then the proper move? Well, according to many people think that the ultimate Jewish move is to fall onto your hands and knees, strike your chest, right? and go into this incredible introspective moment where you're feeling and marinating in your guilt, right? Jewish guilt is the ultimate Jewish emotion, right? And what would the coach turn to you and say if he sees you on your knees, feeling terrible?
Get over it fast.
I would say, buddy, you're middle of playing the game. Get up and continue being productive. Shelve that feeling till later in the locker room when we go over the game, we take stock, and we plan our strategy for the next game. That's when we'll whip that out again. But right now, play the game. And so the answer is you failed. We've all failed. Whoop-de-doo. Rather, what you do is you say, all right, what's this next moment bringing? What do I need to do here? You're not blithely ignoring the failure. You're shelving it. And then at the end of the day, the Kriya Shema Shalamita, the nightly Shema, so that's the time to take an accounting and to be introspective. And you say, okay, let's take a look. You're a little bit more removed from the moment, so the emotions are not running hot. You're able to take a look at it with calculation, say, what led to this mistake? What emotion drove me to this failure? Et cetera, et cetera. How can I better plan tomorrow so that when this impulse comes again, I will be in a better position to answer it? I am not a failure. God doesn't invest in failures. He invested in me. So I'm not a failure. I could do better. So I'm going to plan on it. And that's the way it works. Why is it a struggle? Because it needs to be. If it's not a struggle, then what are we doing here? We are here because we need to triumph. We need to bring the world to where it needs to get to. And until it's there, it's going to be a struggle. Nobody wants to watch the movie where the perfect person woke up in their perfect bed on the perfect day, the perfect breakfast, went to the perfect work, came back, kissed their perfect kids, and went back to their perfect sleep. The end. Boring story. There needs to be challenges if there's going to be triumph. And the challenges are not pretty. They're not easy.
Rabbi, time
That's,
for my quote I sent you.
yes,
Struggles are not in our way, they are our way.
yes,
By Rabbi Russell.
yes. To which I would add, struggles, I would reframe it with one word, because our way implies that's our modus operandi. And I would rather say struggles are not in the way of our journey, they are our journey.
Yes, that's probably what it is.
Yes, because a journey means and this is what Yaakov was saying, right? He journeyed through Lavan, right? In Lavan Garti, I sojourned, right? And God says about the Jewish people, they will sojourn through the land of Egypt, in a land that is not theirs for 400 years. Diaspora is diaspora, exile is exile. Even living in Israel today is still living in the diaspora until Mashiach comes. The struggle will be there because the world is not perfect, and we have to feel that responsibility. If the world is not perfect, that's our effort. Again, each one of us in the corner, in our little corner, nobody's asking us. God is not saying that we all have to become the presidents of the United States and turn the whole. We have to work on our own little corner. And it's very hard to see our progress from day to day. But oftentimes there's a lot more progress than you will give yourself credit for, and the Yetzer Hara has a vested interest in covering over that progress. The Yetzer Hara does not want you to think about how successful you're being. So we just put our nose to the grindstone, keep at it, and every day try and just make sure that when more moments than not, we hit the right notes. All right, with the promise from God that if we kind of work at it in the way that we know how, then we will be successful. It will never be beyond our power to be successful. So we just what's that expression? All that God asks for is your all.
That's all.
Right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, and that's it. But He doesn't ask for more.
I
So if
don't
you
know,
think-
sometimes it seems to me that developing resilience is easier than developing a thick skin.
I would agree with that, 100%. And has been the Jewish people, right? We have developed a lot of resilience. We've been knocked down again and again, and it's hurt. It's hurt badly, and we've cried and we've suffered. And then we sigh, right? Yiddish krechts, right? Oi, right? There's no people that say oi better than the Jew, right?
Ay.
My ex-mother-in-law used to always say, oily, oily,
Right.
oily.
Yeah. Oi, oi. How many words? How eloquent is a good oi, right? And yet, even saying oi comes almost with that sense of resilience. Oi, but let's go.
Get up,
Let's
get
go.
up, right.
Get up, and we're gonna go weiter, right? And that's our story.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank
Rabbi,
you,
I have a
Rabbi.
question. I have a
Shabbat
question, but can you
shalom.
do, Rabbi, can you put off the recording? I have a question.
1 minute.